what are you doing? Where am I at? Am I growing? What am I learning? What's different? I think for me, it like speaks to me at this moment in my life right now.
Here we are, season 2.
Back.
Yes, sir.
Season 2.
We here.
We back. Therapy House.
Somehow we managed to wrangle you all into one place at one time, and
A lot going on these days, man.
It's been a minute.
a lot of accomplishments, people in different places.
Kind of like the end of an era, chill house, all of us in transition. A lot of us are still in transition, but in whole other new chapters of life. We're talking about self-growth today on Therapy House. We all still homies. We still got this little circle right here, the OG group, but we're also all a little different.
Before we hop in, I mean, this is our sophomore season. We're
What's I
talking
gonna say?
Good Kid, Mad City. We're talking late registration season.
Oh my God.
Oh, damn.
Man, we talking Adele 21 season. Other notable, you got AT Aliens, Van Halen 2.
You talking the Carter too?
Oh.
Was that season?
Oh, wait.
Was it sophomore season? I don't know.
I mean, they were all the mixtapes too, that were coming out.
Okay, man. So you're veering off the course. All right, strike one for Jorge. You about to get kicked off.
Myers said he had notes already, bro. He had notes.
Notes.
Take it
I'm
easy.
looking it
Take
up.
it easy.
B-Day Beyonce season. Season 2. Where are you guys coming at? How are you guys feeling as we do this whole thing again? But this time a little different.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited about this kind of new format and how we're going to be doing this season. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's awesome to be back and to feel like this podcast is going to reflect, hopefully, carry that same vision that we had in season 1. But like John was talking about, I think the part that's going to be cool is that we've all changed. And so the podcast is going to look different, and that's going to be pretty exciting for people to tune in for.
I'm coming in like J. Cole 2014 Forest Hills season. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, wow.
Dropping like it's hot.
Damn.
No role models, man.
I mean, on Power Trip and
One
shit.
of the best albums ever, man.
Nah, but yeah, man, it should be fun. Excited to get you guys all together and see what we produce, man, and throw some heat out there for the world to absorb.
In a sense, this season 2, we're looking to grow, we're looking to do bigger things, we're looking to, put together a catalog that shows that we're just not regular podcasts that talks about, the therapist struggle and therapist. We want to branch out. We want to do something a little different. We want to make some content that shows us as like individuals, shows us that we're trying to grow, shows a different light into people, or at least help you guys kind of think about things in a different way that challenges you to be a better person or helps you along the way. We don't want to exclude anybody. We want people to kind of grow with us as we open up, get vulnerable, or bring people on who have a different perspective.
And are willing to share their experiences, right?
Exactly.
This is always going to be the OG group of Therapy House. We got Jeremiah Knight, Luis Abbott, Jorge Mesa, Jeremy Ramos, myself, John Tong. But we're lucky that we're in a place in our lives where we can still get together and advocate for new topics. And along new topics, we're going to be bringing on new people. That's one of the biggest things about Therapy House Season 2. We talked together as a group, but now we also trying to expand. We're trying to talk to new groups, new people that we're also going to be bringing and hosting to just discuss new topics.
Trying to make this special, a little bit more for you guys, a little bit more for us, and, hopefully you guys grow with us. That's the whole plan. Today, a topic, Jay Knight's leading the way. Today is personal growth, or just growth in general. For you guys, when you think about growth, I mean, how are you defining it?
Man, I would say from my personal experience, I've stepped out the box a lot and felt I've been out my comfort zone a lot. So to be able to grow in any atmosphere or any space, it's the unknown. So if you're willing to try and wanting to grow, you have to take that hurdle and go to that next step, even if it's the unknown. So for me, it's just being comfortable, being uncomfortable in a new space and just putting yourself out there, whether if it's academically, professionally, personally, taking that leap into an unknown space.
I think growth is about how you deal with transitions. Transitions are these existential points throughout your life, and you decide which way. And I feel like growth is like the sum of those changes, right? The sum of those decisions, and what did we learn from it? How did we change from it?
It's interesting because when I think about how personal growth looks like for me, it's more of like a daily thing, like the choices that you make, maybe because there's more abrupt transition. It was more of an abrupt transition in my life recently, professional wise, but I could talk about that a little bit later. But I think that's sort of the everyday growth that I notice as far as the choices that I make, the discipline that it takes to then accumulate to see the growth, see the progress that you've made. And so that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm still haven't fully seen the progress, but I'm choosing every day to try to grow.
Yeah, I see it as like growth is that accountability to yourself, like knowing, just being real with yourself and know that like, if there's deficiencies that's going on with you, or just like, you're just, you can do better, you can challenge yourself more, you can like grow more and learn more, like those moments when you have to talk to yourself and say like, man, I need to step it up, or I need to, like, even for me, like this year of like just wanting to be more disciplined and more just learn and grow and like give myself time for myself to grow. Like I just been kind of just implementing different things and strategies in my life lately to like help me to grow. Cause I think once you stop wanting to grow, it's like you die. Like you're just going to remain the same, think the same, do the same thing. But I think for me, it's being accountable to yourself, like checking in with yourself and saying like, hey, like, where are you? Like, where are you at in life right now? Are you like, what are you doing for yourself individually? We all have like jobs and careers, families, all that stuff. And it's the day-to-day stuff, and you can get kind of caught up in the day-to-day things, but then you kind of forget yourself of like, okay, where am I at? Am I growing? What am I learning? What's different? I think for me it like speaks to me at this moment in my life right now.
Like in a sense, it's more of a positive or a lateral change internally, or at least then, I don't know. I feel like it's definitely altering your perspective or
Well, some growth is intentional, right? Like I'm hearing you challenging yourself, you trying to grow, but there's also growth that's reactionary too. There's also some shit that is unexpected, traumas, all kinds of shit that happens in your life. And sometimes you have to grow from those things too. And I think growth has both. Every individual out there has growth. And like, how do we also explore that with clients, right? How have they grown? Even with the time that we spend with them, how has that shaped our philosophy on how we treat people? I think how every therapist thinks about growth and how to achieve growth with a client, that's what makes us a little bit different.
I think the interesting part is that you get stuck in this phase where you're just kind of going through the day and like you are making choices per se, right? Like you're getting your stuff done, but are you really asking yourself questions, and are you really making choices and creating these behaviors towards, what you're thinking you're trying to do, right? So internal goals that you might be asking yourself, or values that you're questioning. Are you really doing that kind of behavior during the day, right? And that's, as therapists, we kind of sometimes walk into that and have to break some of those. But personally, like that's something that I'm also going through, and I admit it, and it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're speaking from a place of experience, Jorge. So I want you to elaborate. What do you feel like of this past year has brought that growth for you?
Well, it's interesting because I really felt like this past year I grew a lot because I stepped into a unique role where I was not only able to, on a professional side, continue to be a therapist, but I had a position as a manager. So a little bit of that admin work, which is cool because it was like leading teams, and I really take a lot of pride in that. And I got a chance to do that. So I felt like I was growing a lot, and compromised with growing clinically a little bit slower than what I wanted. But then I was still able to have both. And abruptly that changed And the reality was that I had to then kind of grow quickly and say, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to continue to take on this responsibility as this administrator, as well as pursue my goal, my personal goal of becoming a therapist? And that's what I've been trying to grow into. So it went sort of like from this very, like slow, growing seasonal kind of progression to almost just having to take it almost just not, I was going to say like cutting off a branch, to like propagate it. I'm a plant dad, so
propagate. You using the right words. You
get the pruners.
Get the pruners, get the gloves out, get the soil. So, shit, I felt like I had to cut that branch and propagate that somewhere, let it kind of get the roots out, but still grow as a therapist because I still need to get my license. And I'm still working towards that, and I'm close, and so I'm grateful about that and excited about that. So that's where the growth of now choosing every day to continue to be on that path, and I think the biggest change is, honestly, I went from having like a full-time job to, now just being this person who just has clients on the side, and it's not that many. And so choosing to try to continue towards that daily has been the growth part, where sometimes I feel like maybe I'm just kind of like doing something to just pass time. But I'm also like, all right, I'm also taking this time to, rest and like tell myself, that this is like something that I'm also doing for myself, but I do still feel, the pressure. Obviously, we're all adults here. We're all talking about our daily life and our life events, and we all have those responsibilities. And so trying to see all of that into perspective and choose every day, that was today like did I make good choices, or was it like a stuck day?
You gotta have more grow days and stuck days, but sometimes it's lateral.
Yeah, but not trying to be, mean to myself about it, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think it's important for the topic of growth to really understand the concept of self-reflection and know that your movements don't, again, not to be so hard on yourself, but to reflect on your daily moves and really assess like, okay, was this move something that's going to benefit me down the road? Is it instant gratification? Is it whatever, right? Is it whatever you see fit, but to know if it's not your instant gratification, or if it's not, you're not seeing results right away, like long term, like for instance, your hours, and you feel like it's just like a slug movement, you're making progress and you're getting there. So you see the light at the end of the tunnel. So when you reflect on a daily basis, you internalize like, is this really helping me out? Or like what? I don't know. I'm not in that position, so I don't really know what you might reflect on and what you can do better to get to the end goal. But your life's ahead of you, and you only need 4 or 5 more months of whatever, and so that's going to help you down the road. And so self-reflection is important.
Absolutely. And that's sort of the tricky dance, that you play with yourself, because you zoom in right on a day, and you're just kind of like, okay, this is kind of what happens. And then, you sometimes remind yourself, all right, let me zoom back out and look at this big picture. Almost like, let me look at this graph that I am trending in the right direction. I am doing these things. And, to have that dialogue with myself, is something that's kind of how lately I've been perceiving growth, and looking at that.
So let me ask real quick. Let me bring it to the table that with the topic of growth, when you come to a medium, how do you really dissect if it's complacency versus this movement was growth? Like, are you really taking on a growth mindset, or you feel like most moves are really like, I'm comfortable with my move and I don't have to make another move for another 2-3 years? Or if it's a really daily grind, like what's that intersection of, am I good for now, complacent, am I comfortable, or is it really helping me grow in some sort of area?
I mean, I feel like so many things came to my mind as far as like, what does growth look like, and how does, when you're talking about complacency or growth mindset, like the part that just like struck me the strongest was like the culture that we live in, right? And sort of the environment somehow that creates like, are you a go-getter? Do you always have to be kind of grinding? Or is complacency okay, and is it more of a maintenance mindset?
Ain't nothing wrong with maintenance
Yeah.
if it's working for you.
I mean, you feel like you're grinded so long that it's good to kind of be on pilot.
It's also good to build up resiliency through growth,
I think also too to be present and enjoy like those moments of goals that you've reached. I think sometimes individuals can just go from like thing to thing, and that can be used as a distraction, for whatever to deal with something, not wanting to deal with something. And so if you're just going from goal to goal, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? You're never enjoying even that growth and progress you're making. You're just thinking like, what's the next thing? So I think sometimes, like somebody I tell clients too, it's like learning how to just people that are like overachievers and they're just using.
Sometimes that's with a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, it's a lot of anxiety, but also just to take a moment to enjoy what you're doing and reflect on it and what you learn from these moments, because you can learn a lot through a process of getting to a goal, and just reflecting on that and like integrating that into your life and understanding it's important.
In regards to kind of the waypoint, figuring out whether it's complacency, is it growth, is it good decisions, is it a step back. I mean, a lot of which is just being able, like Jeremy said, like just being self-reflective, being able to kind of be in the moment, being able to reflect and where you are, who you are, how this match your values, and kind of what you're hoping to see in the future. There is a sense of what Jorge said, like society is continuing to promoting, like, oh, we always have to be doing something. There's like which creates a certain pressure. I love existentialism, just like John. And there's a sense like, yeah, society corrupts us all. And so just got to figure out how it does you.
Mm.
With that, life consistently changes, and whether or not it's your change or someone else's change or your significant other's change, it's everything. Life has an impact on you one way or another, and it's forcing you to grow.
You try to adapt to that change.
You try. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, you hope you can't run for long. So it's one of those things where acceptance is key, and all the other mindfulness skills, patience, emotional intelligence,
frustration tolerance.
So
we all get a little mad at times.
Yeah, but in the end, it's futile. Either way, you got to find a way to adapt, adjust, accept, and because life goes on.
Do you all see that in your clients a lot? It's hard for them to like accept change and transition's really hard for your clients. And like, how do you help them to see that these transitions are good, or this can help them make them grow?
In fact, the matter is, not all transitions are great. I mean,
yeah,
they're probably not great for them. I mean, some people moving out initially, I gotta admit, it wasn't easy for me to take because, I miss my road dog. If you guys don't know, J House is officially 1J and not 2Js.
Some decisions have been made.
Big German's leaving. So initially, it wasn't super easy for me to take. But then if I wasn't able to accept that things were changing, I would be curmudgeon and I would be upset. It would be something that I'm holding on to. But being able to accept that things are changing, people are moving, it allowed me to kind of see more things are possible, or an opportunity for me to step up, be able to kind of be in a place where the possibilities are more open, and be more responsible about my budget, how money's coming in, how money's going out. If the other people didn't change, then you wouldn't have to change. It would be easier if people didn't do things or did things differently, because it would be easier on you. It would be excellent. It would be great if Jeremy was still here, because I could save a little bit more money. But that's restricting Jeremy to my dream, my hopes, and everything. And by accepting and letting him go, I have to then step up and do things. So a lot of my clients as well, when they talk about like resisting change and people not requiting their love or being able to kind of match their same energy, it's more so of, are you mad because they're not making your life easier, or because now you have to step up and adjust and grow and accept that you have to be more of a catalyst for change, or you have to be more responsible for where life is going, or take on the next challenge?
I think the biggest change in my life since our last season in Therapy House, Chill House edition was I've moved now from Santa Clara, where I moved into my partner's house and I've been there the last couple years, leveling up in our relationship and all that. And, she's my rock and I love her. And she's made our new home amazing,
Racking up them points. Ding,
I got to
ding,
give a
ding,
shout out to my
ding.
love out there. We talking about growth. There's also relationship growth too, right? I think that's an area where my partner and I have definitely leveled up in making this new
Yep.
spot that we got for our family. Uniting with my dad, also guiding us through renovating the house. Like I got calluses on my fingers, many sleepless nights, and I thank all of you also that helped me with this process too. Like this is gonna be a dope ass growth. It's gonna be a new challenge. Everything's more expensive, but it challenges you. There's frustrations, and my partner and I definitely have had discussions and gone back and forth, and like both feeling frustrated with one another. But that's growth too, and those are challenges. Some of them, are planned. Like obviously, there's stuff that we work on as a couple, like intentionally long term. And then we also work on stuff that's just like, damn, you did what? Huh? It's just a blend of all kinds of stress. Rebuilding a house. It's been a challenging few months, but there is this long-term goal, this dream that you're kind of working towards. Relationships can be beautiful, but they can also be challenging. There are definitely a lot of frustrations, like, why did you do it this way? Why did you do it that way? Like, are you listening to me? Like you're dealing with a lot, coming from different styles. We made it mesh and work in our previous home that we had together, but then going into a new home, we're like planning stuff, renovating stuff, and then we really haven't taken any days off of work. And then parenting, man, dude, parenting is tough. That's just a whole other can of worms, in terms of growth too, man. You gotta be spread out through different domains. It's not just your own growth. You're also trying to promote your children's growth. It's a lot, man. So yeah, dude, when you have disagreements, when you have stuff that are not disagreements, but you just gotta like work together on, it becomes a lot, man. And the result can be really beautiful if you put the work in.
I think what I'm hearing, and I don't have parenting experience, but I'm with my partner obviously, but I think the results that happen with the growth and the challenges is just a vindication that you are doing something right, and you are growing together, right? And you're able to show that, by tangibly saying, like we built this together, right? Like this is something that we've done through hard times, right? And so it's, in a way, it validates that you can do difficult things, right? That personal growth is very challenging, but when you realize that you can step into these, sometimes, I think with clients, these feelings feel, I'm going to say that, very funny sounding, these feelings feel big. And I use that because especially when you work with kids, you really just are basic, because you can be straightforward with kids a lot of the times, and even teenagers as well, but yeah, and adults. But these feelings just are so overwhelming, right? But when you really somehow engage with them, you realize that they're not that huge and these like massively crippling things, although as therapists, we know that in the moment, that's what they're experiencing, this paralysis, right? And so like you're just stuck in there with them, right? But you end up helping them grow and realize that they can handle these feelings, right? That they're these invisible things that feel really powerful, but in reality, they can control them, right? They do have autonomy. And so I think that's where the growth comes in, right? Because sometimes when they are just so overwhelming, you reach like a level of avoidance, and that looks, there's many examples of how to avoid certain things. We get angry at things, right? Or we get really sad, or we just straight up have anxiety, and and we physically avoid things, right? But yeah, it comes with a lot.
Lou, what about you with being a parent, man? Since season 1 and now in season 2, man. I mean, I brought up the topic of children. You got a brand new baby.
Yeah, 7-month old. Yeah, it's Yeah, it's been really a journey on this one for sure. I think just being as a man father, like, yeah, like nothing prepares you for it. You know what I mean? You're just like, all right, I'm having a kid, and you're like, shit, all right, okay, and then and then you just like, you don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? Like I had no previous experience of what it is to be a father, so this is just like straight up brand new. So I didn't have any expectations, a lot of uncertainties and unknowns, but I loved, like, when my kid came, it was just like so much love. You know what I mean? So much love for this child. But those first 3 months was crazy hard. And yeah, I've never, like, I was telling someone, man, it was this has been the hardest thing in, like, I've ever done in my life, those first 3 months, because it forces you to grow. You know what I mean? Like, this is such an uncomfortable thing, because, like, I don't know this role as a father. I don't know. And so you're just kind of like daily going through and trying to, like, all right, man, how do I do this father thing? And, like, how do I take care of this kid? And, like, you're just learning. You're learning on the fly right there too. Cause, like, again, it forces you in a situation to, like, all right, I got to step it up. I got to change how I see things, view things, how I handle things, how I manage things, my feelings, my emotions, like all these things. I felt like in those first 3 months, it really stretched me as an individual. And even though it was really difficult, but, like, man, I have such a different, just within this span of like 7 months, a different outlook and different perspective on life, just through this process. And it's made me better. And I think that's why it's, like, also driven me to be wanting to be a better individual. I want to grow, I want to learn, because that's how I want to model to my child. You know what I mean? Because, children learn from their environment. These are, whatever their parents, these are their first, like, people in their life. They're going to show them, like, hey, this is how to be an individual, human, and, like, what love is, and all these things like that. So I want my daughter to see someone that's, like, growing and continually to challenge themselves, And so I think for me, that's been a really big thing. But yeah, but fatherhood it's a crazy thing, man. It's wild. It's great. I love it. You hate it at times, because, like, you know what I mean? You just, like, want your time, but you don't get to have that no more that much. So, but it's been great learning and growing through this whole process. But yeah, I'm loving it.
Learning and growing through, of course, we try our best and foolishly try many times to control where it goes and where it takes us, but quite often it will just take you where it takes you, and you just have to learn to accept it. But yet growth can be unintentional, and sometimes it is intentional. Sometimes we take the bull by the horns. We try to cultivate it or, spark it. With that, has there ever been a time where you guys kind of felt pressured to grow?
Damn, I gotta think about that one. A lot of things came out.
I think that's what we've been talking about, right? There's a lot of pressures to grow. When that existential crisis right there, like, now I'm big. This little person, this little baby right here just depends on me. Total mind shift. That's a pressure to grow.
But more so not unintentional, like having a baby, like, okay, yeah, and then you rise to the occasion. Well, planned, of course, but
it was planned.
But more so of, like, no, I know I need to go. I need to step up. As Jorge had mentioned, there's a sense of, like, society, like, you always have to be doing something. You always have to be creative. You always have to, like, put out a new project. You always have to kind of be better than the next therapist, or to be better than, help more people, get more money. Has there been an outside pressure of just, like, you have to grow. You have to be doing something that you guys have experienced?
I would like to add, I think one of the pressures that I've always kind of resorted back to as, like, this foundation of why I guess I stay involved with a lot of stuff, primarily is due to my upbringing. And I know I don't want to ever go that route, even if I'm forced to for whatever reason. Like, I don't want to put myself in that situation, because, as John mentioned, we kind of determine our growth and kind of can dictate where we go next. I've used that pressure, that foundation of my upbringing, to really branch out and take those leaps that weren't taken when I was a kid, because there was a lot of complacency there. and and just kind of like going to the next step in my life. Any next step is better than the previous step that was back then. So it's like, I don't care what I do, I need to do something different because I'm just too traumatized. So I'd like to bring it back to there because, again, it was too wild for a family of, 5 at the time. Now there's 6, but at the time there was 5 kids and 1 mother. So I don't know if you can imagine, that shit. And being in the middle of the pack, you're not getting the most attention, or you got to do things. I don't know. Like, I'm the middle kid and I always supposed to get in trouble and shit. So that was my way of getting attention. But to grow from that, I've had to use that. I had to channel those behaviors and, those thoughts and really output it to something different. And I, for most of my life, have put it into academics and just branch out and being uncomfortable with academics. Because back in 3rd grade, I got left back. I wasn't an A student. And it really turned the page up into the 8th grade where academically I took it serious and really sought out new things. So the pressures of reliving my childhood is always in my back pocket, because there were days where we didn't have light. There were days we didn't have gas. And so I guess reliving that and doing everything I can do to provide for my daughter, my partner's kids, my partner, and the next steps into starting our life into a new place. So, just trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Well, Jay, I mean, we'd all be remiss if we didn't say that although season 1 was us being, clinicians and being in this field, and you in the field of vocational rehab, you are going to school to get your master's in social work.
Dude, I kind of had this revelation, but yeah, I just decided to, because I wanted to know more about it with the conversations that we've had, the clinical side of MFT, but the also clinical side of social work for other people. And it just seemed like the right thing to do, just to kind of get more in depth with the knowledge of it. My personal growth in an area that if I'm going to be in this atmosphere, I think it's best to kind of know a little bit more of what am I talking about. I don't have clients on a clinical level. I have clients on more of a rehabilitation. What can we do next to get you back employed? So yeah, I'm taking those steps. I'm trying to do the LCSW route and also take a certification to be a certified rehabilitation counselor. So that's down the road, but I mean, I have those goals and I want to grow in those areas too. What about you, Maya? I mean, you mentioned a lot about, missing me and whatnot, which, sorry, man, but professionally, I mean,
we hashing it out here at Therapy House, guys.
You've grown since season 1 too, and how do you take season 1 and help you into season 2 and eventually down the road?
I mean, the way I take in season 1, thinking about kind of where we were all at, thinking about the product, the essence of how we kind of got into all of this, really brought me back to just being able to start podcasts and things, kind of back with Love Yours. It wasn't about just putting our name out there, getting some fame and things like that. It was more so of being able to produce a product that would increase our outreach to people who needed it, to the listener who really felt they needed more support or more information about Black mental health. And same with here, being able to connect to just a family of, brothers and other people that we bring in, some people that they can relate to get more information, more clarification on things they've been thinking about, been wrestling with, haven't thought about, or at least received a new perspective in which that they haven't thought of. And so just increasing our reach, because I feel like I've been about, I feel like connecting with you guys, and I feel like what you guys have been about is just, being able to help that person, that one person, whoever it may be, whether it's here, whether it's Timbuktu, whether it's England, Australia, or wherever our voices reach. That's what it's been about. And so trying to get back to that nature, trying to get back to how can we produce or increase our voices as far as we can to be as helpful as we can and be able to adjust and grow in a way that helps that. Whether we continue to do this, whether we all split off, whether, we all create businesses, then once again, we can always direct people back to therapy house. Whether they get services from us or not, there's a product there that they can say, hey, you know what, I took something from this and it really helped. Whether it was talking about growth, whether it's talking about LGBTQ clinician and their experience, whether it was talking about the history of social work, or whether it's talking about anxiety while taking care of other people, at least they took something from it. And so just being able to kind of sit and try to create that product, increase that reach, get back to where we started from, that's been kind of something that's been exciting, and it's helped with my own personal growth.
I think a growth also commonality that I see in the room too is some peeps up in here starting their private practices. I mean, that's a whole other challenge of growth right there too. Jay Knight.
No, but you bring up a good point and an important one too, Maya, with regards to growth, but also the way that this new season can help people. A lot of the times when people make that first call to therapy, they really don't know, and it still can feel like an unsure moment for them, right? Even though they've been courageous enough to pick up the phone and talk to some stranger about your issues, like, it's never a lock. And I think that as a therapist now in private practice, Maya, you can talk a little bit more as well, but it's never really a lock. And when you're on the other side, if you can at least say like, hey, I know you're maybe still a little hesitant, why don't you go listen to this podcast, right? Like, and you are promoting, but you're also trying to lend a hand to this person, right? And in the mental health world, we call that case management, right? We link them and we're able to at least provide some type of support. That's always at least something as a therapist now in private practice that I want to leave my clients with something, because it is pretty uncertain, especially at the beginning stages. If they're still very ambivalent and that stage of change is more on that contemplative side, and they're not really fully, and so you're trying to help them get there, and you're also trying to build an authentic relationship and acknowledge that it's new and it's going to take some time, but to be able to be like, hey, yeah, go check out this podcast on, therapists, or, all of this stuff can go a long way.
Right. And, it's the struggle. The journey is not solely our own. I mean, there's nurses that are doing the same thing, trying to inspire patients to kind of take the next steps to kind of take care of themselves, follow the medication recommendations. JR knows, even with trying to help people with getting jobs and things like that, it's not just solely giving information and being able to inspire them, but, it's up to them in the day to kind of make the choices. Of course, whether it's private practice or LLC, I know there's many things in which people have that pressure to change and grow and, throw themselves in transitions, because transitions equals growth and stretch marks and all of that good stuff. But I mean, do you feel like there is pressure when it comes to being at the same place? Do you feel like you have to kind of change positions or change sceneries to grow? And so for that, I had to put Jay Tong on the hot seat. So out of all of us, John has live or die Starlight. So
Damn. Oh, all right, dude.
So Jay Tong, how long have you been at Starlight? And I don't know, how do you feel like your growth is stagnated?
I don't feel stagnant, man. I have actually explored other options, and I've actually decided more or less to kind of stay where I'm at and maintain that. There is a sense of stability. I feel like I'm growing in a lot of other areas, and I'm definitely somebody, like, when I strategize about growth, when I challenge myself about growth, I kind of try to not to take on too much at one time, try to make that growth realistic, because I have tried to take too much before, and that's the type of stuff that used to send me on some anxiety attacks and stuff like that way back in the day.
Right.
Oh, John has anxiety?
What?
What?
Oh, wow. Dang,
I think
that's the first
everybody
time
has
here.
anxieties, I've had my share of existential anxieties, that's for damn sure.
Yo, that's not what you said in the episode meeting.
think that's on record, bro.
No, man. We got it on the books. But so then, yes, I felt you would answer this way, John. So then, being in the same place, how have you managed to continue to grow, or what do you feel like has helped you kind of still add new dynamics to yourself, new bells and whistles, or at least kind of feel not complacent? Because that is like a big piece. Like, oh, people are like, oh, no, you got to change jobs so you should, get a higher salary. You have to change jobs so you can be in different positions. You have to change jobs to learn something new.
Well, I think something that actually has been pretty nice for me is that my salary has gone up exponentially, after getting licensed, after also becoming the lead clinician of my department, right after a merger,
Mic drop.
So,
Mic drop.
okay.
Damn.
I may have stayed at the same place of employment, but I have grown. And other positions have been offered to me internally, externally, and I still have my questions, as to where I want to go. So I have grown. I definitely wouldn't be able to start building a new home without having taken some extra cash home, But I just think that the way that I see growth and strategize towards growth, it has to be measured growth. The whole jumping thing, Jay, that thing has always scared me. We talking about anxieties and stuff like that, like to just jump and do that next one. So we see growth very differently, right? You're out here talking about like you were traumatized and like just feel like complacency is this thing, and like you got to jump to that next thing because it's better than whatever the last thing was. So there's different ways to grow. I would say mine's more of a measured growth in terms of what I'm intending to. Then there's also stuff where shit just hits the fan because I got faced with some crisis of the day.
Mm-hmm. So then if there wasn't higher positions, would you still be growing?
What do you mean by that?
So did these opportunities come naturally, or did they come in a way, where you are being comfortable with the uncomfortable, right? And trying to kind of grow, right? Because this was a stability thing for you, right? And that's important. And so as you're being stable in this job, naturally, are these things coming and that's how you're growing? Are you instigating some of this growth?
Or is it just the positions, new responsibilities, access has allowed you to kind of give you what you need?
It's a natural order for him to go up.
Or is it a little bit of both? Where some of it is natural and the other part is, you instigating and trying to propel that growth.
I think that's exactly what we've been talking about with saying it's intentional
Yeah,
and also the shit that's unintentional. You gotta balance these both, bro.
What I think Maya is asking is that whether have you been reaching out to promote yourself out there to try and do new things, or has this just come to you and you're just seeing
some of it has come naturally and some of it has been advocated for. Of course, it's a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm.
And accepting the consequences of decisions of what I make with all these decisions. I got offered a position at, I'm going to advocate that it's an amazing agency, and I have learned so much about what they provide in the community, and I had an opportunity to probably help lead a program, being like more of the a lead clinician over there, also helping design the program with the director, who is dope ass dude, for reals. Definitely we gonna have to take a bike ride one day. He's pretty cool. Could see myself working with him, but I also felt like there was no pay increase there. I got lowballed, and then after that I got matched, and that was cool. And I knew because he explained the funding to me, and like the CEO and him had a different opinion of how to provide for this new program. And I have education on gerontology. There's a few of us out there. Jorge is also one of us that studied that as an emphasis in college. But working with the elderly is a population that I've been passionate about forever. I was going to come in as a lead clinician, which would have been amazing because I could have focused on the therapy part, and leading a group of Holocaust survivors would have been amazing. But at the same time, there was a split in the reasoning for doing this program. And I also felt like, damn, I had this amazing opportunity in front of me, but it's also a lateral move. I wouldn't be paid more. I would have to take on responsibilities like writing like new grant proposals. That's something that was never a part of the journey that I thought I would be doing. It was an amazing opportunity to do so, but I think that it was something that at the end of the day I had to walk away from. And I felt two-sided about it because I love the elderly. And this would have been the first time in my clinical career that I would have been able to really serve that population that I studied. And it was a difficult, hard decision to walk away from that. That was an existential crisis that I had to kind of deal with lately. And it was amazing. But it was also heartbreaking at the same time, because nobody looks at that population in society. We are a death-denying culture. And I really wanted to do it, but I didn't. So you're right. I have maintained at Starlight. I've had other positional upgrades at Starlight. You know, I've been also advocating for myself in Starlight through the years. I think that's where I have gotten a little bit up at times. And I'm going to trust the process right now.
There's a sense in which, you can definitely take on new roles, new opportunities. Doing the same thing is tough. I mean, you want something more. You want to take on responsibilities. You want to join committees. You want to be more of a voice. You want to support other coworkers and kind of just add more components to you.
I think what's interesting is that, when you look at it, because we're in a society that needs, that sort of has now is insatiable with creating and constantly kind of like breaking walls and barriers, right? And so it's like there's this constant drive, whether that's realistic or not. That's sort of the almost like dogma of what popular mainstream, culture is. But at the same time, when you're being pulled in so many different directions, almost as a therapist, existentially, what kind of visual does that kind of bring up? Is that sort of just like this completely stretched out, for me, it's like almost like this cell that has like all of these like pulls from it, right? Whereas if you are sticking to just, trying to be stable, right? Which, John, you're trying to be stable at Starlight and still kind of continue to do therapy, but also grow in the process by trusting it. That also creates a different image, right? Hones in on a certain skill and also builds it. We're in a unique position as therapists where we have a lot of these opportunities to do outside things besides the clinical part. And some of those things actually don't come from our education per se. They actually come from just the fact that you've proven that you can work, and if you're willing to do it and learn and maybe find some type of people that can guide you, right? A support team around you, or find someone, you can do all of these things. When I became a manager last year in 2022, that was one thing that had a little bit of background, but really I was learning on the go. And that's also the part of growth that, is possible, right? But you can also just try to continue to grow and stay consistent and stable, and growth will come, right? You keep watering and watering and watering, that tree's going to grow.
Growth comes at a cost, right? So, I mean, if anything, what do you guys lose when you grow?
Sanity. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, you might be right.
But yeah, like John said, you take on more responsibility, and yeah, some of that, you bring that home, and even at the work spot, just sanity comes into play, because taking on a whole bunch of stuff, you kind of deviate from why you got into this field in the first place, and you're just doing a lot more of administrative work. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I guess it depends on like the situation in life you're at, sometimes like, yeah, like when I'm thinking about like clients wise and them dealing with when they're growing, and yeah, for example, like sometimes it's like when you're teaching clients boundaries, that's a real growth for them, because they don't understand or they've never experienced boundaries, or don't even know what boundaries are. And so like for them through this, it's like it can be really hard for them to set a boundary with someone and be like, like setting boundary with their parents, or setting boundary with their partner or friend, whatever it is, so it's like sometimes the cost with that is like, yeah, the cost of could be a friend, it could be someone that doesn't respect your boundary, or you're starting to see you're growing and that other person's not growing along with you or staying the same, and you're starting to see some dysfunction in them, and it's not a good person for me. And that's when, when you see that with your clients, kind of with counseling them and kind of being there with them, seeing that process of like letting go because they're growing. And so like sometimes it could be relationships, it could be that you lose in the process of growth, you know? And like I see that with clients, and you know, and it's interesting to see that process, because you see the process of like holding on, and I don't want to let go of this person, or this has been my best friend for a long time. And then it's like hard. And then after you see, oh yeah, like we're not talking that much, or like, I set a boundary on them. And it's like, it's cool to see that. And it's hurtful in them. They're like, I lost someone, but like, I know this person's not good. And that's just going to propel them even more and grow as an individual. So sometimes it's like, yeah, relationships you lose.
I feel there's a risk of losing yourself sometimes with growth. Just having too many things going at once, growing in or trying to focus on growing in other areas that you forget other pieces that you're not tending to.
I think that's the difference in being a parent, is that you can't sacrifice that domain. You know, am I right, dads? You can't sacrifice that domain. So you can try to challenge yourself for growth, but you also got to be able to maintain that. Hopefully that one's growing too. Then you know you're really leveling up.
But when you prioritize that, are you neglecting other areas where you're growing? Or some things got to be put on pause, and, you know, you put some things on pause too long, then, you know, things happen.
Well, I mean, I think it's just, you got to stay true to yourself. Put things on pause if, you know, there's time to come back to something on the road, especially if you're caring for another individual. You know, it's not just you. You got to care for another human being, and that takes precedence in a lot of what you do. But in those gaps that you might have, and you should kind of like will have throughout the development of the child, do you go back and work on those goals and what you wanted to do? Lou brought up just being disciplined earlier. It's okay to kind of have a pause button for now and then get back to it. But if you don't lose that desire, that discipline, that'll come around down the road, and, you know, it'll all come to fruition. Got to do what you got to do for the little ones, you know. But I wanted to ask you a question, because you mentioned earlier about when you're talking about growth and having a daughter. Do you see yourself resorting back to the way you were brought up for your parenting? And if so, in what ways? And if not, how do you grow and learn about other parenting skills or parenting approaches?
Yeah, I'm interested right now. I'm like, it's interesting because right now I don't see any of that. I'm curious if it's going to like pop up later when she's a little more older, or, you know, or a teenager or whatever, you know, because like she's a baby right now. 7 months on, just, you know, you're feeding it, burping it, changing its diaper, playing with it, and that's it, you know. So it's like, but once start getting personality, talking, and like growing up and all that, I'm wondering how that's going to be for me. I'm working on myself right now. I know I am, but like I'm just wondering if like something triggers and like, oh shit, I'm being like my father. I'll be like my mom right now.
You did some previous work on that before even becoming a dad. I remember you told me that you were in therapy, right?
Yeah.
Are you still in therapy?
Yeah, I'm still in therapy right now. Yeah, I went kind of re-engaged in therapy when my daughter was born. So, because I had to like talk to someone about that. It was a lot. But I worked in the past with like therapists with my family and stuff like that. But, you know, things pop up, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I thought I got that managed. And then just like, damn, dude, I got more work to do. But yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, I'm not seeing it right now, but I'm just like curious if it's going to pop up later for me, you know? And like, am I going to be aware of it?
Have you noticed that in yourself, Jack?
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of gentle parenting for me. As hard as I feel like I can be, but I feel like, I don't know, man, just with girls in general, it softens the dad up. Yeah. You know, especially being newborns or little toddlers, and they're just so innocent, you know, and you know, at some point someone else has to protect your daughter, right? So a lot of that is built in right now, and it's just the gentle parenting that kind of say no, but you don't want to be forceful with no, or, you know, but yeah, I've noticed that it's changed from my upbringing. My upbringing was violent. So I guess that's one way to look at it, because I don't want to repeat that. Yeah.
Do you get frustrated, like, and, you know?
I mean, my circumstance is different. I do get frustrated, but I can't get frustrated because my circumstance, because I'm not physically there every day. And to really have her outbursts, I have to kind of adjust to those as a dad. You know, had I been there every day, and I got to nip that in the bud so it doesn't become a repetitive thing.
Right.
But I'm working through that too. But that'll come as I have more hours with the baby. And shout out, I'll have more hours with her next month.
Let's go.
Nice.
Overnight?
Yeah,
Let's
man.
go.
Oh. For the viewers out there that don't know, this has been a long process and shit. So don't worry, I haven't done anything to make mom be upset and she's just bitter. So there's no rational cause out there that I have limited hours. It's just, yeah, man, she's done everything to limit my time, but court last year ruled against that. And yeah, man, so next month I'll have her for overnights and, you know, be able to gel with her more. But yeah, those gentle parenting, you know, Vanessa likes to bring that up. She likes to joke about it. I'm like, I don't care, man. This girl's my little soul, you know. She's a part of me.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I send you guys photos of her, and she just changed so much, and you'll see that with Luna, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So one thing we definitely wanted to do for season 2 was actually provide you guys with resources.
I want to recommend This Is It, Another Essays on Zen and Spiritual Experience by Alan Watts. It's a great paperback. And also for kind of like an existential journey, father-son, inquiry into values. Also check out Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Learn one with Zen. I'll be probably talking more about Zen on other podcasts.
The first one for me, I think, is like a multifaceted resource. It's latinxtherapy.com. It's a huge platform that started off as a podcast. But for me, it speaks to just my identity as a Mexican living here in the United States, who identifies as an immigrant and has the Latinx culture. I think personally, there's a lot of stuff that is available for anyone to learn about, just the stigma, learn about therapy resources. But for those clinicians out there, maybe some of you that are listening, that bring in that skill set, that repertoire to therapy, there's also resources for you out there. And there's also things that are translated in Spanish. And that's really, really what helped me feel more confident to just stretch myself out to the population and connect more. So that's a really, really cool resource that I highly recommend, latinxtherapy.com.
I would like to recommend brain training program. It's called Luminosity. Helps with a lot of remembering, discovering of new subjects. The best part, I like, it collaborates with over 50 universities around the nation and takes a little bit of subjects from each of them and makes it really concise and informative. So Luminosity is a good source for those who are looking to go into higher ed. It's just another resource.
Yeah, everyone, this is Luis, and I want to recommend some stuff that I feel like has helped me to grow, and also I think it can help like therapists grow or anyone to grow. And so I think this book I want to recommend is called No Bad Parts. It's called Healing Trauma and Restoring the Wholeness with the IFS. I think this can be a book recommended for therapists, but also for just individuals that want to get a better understanding of themselves. And it kind of talks a little bit about the concept that we all have different parts of ourselves, and these different parts come into play in our everyday life. And IFS kind of helps a little bit like about how we have a relationship with these parts and understanding that, you know, maybe we may feel shamed about different parts of ourselves, but the book talks about like there's no bad parts because these parts serve a purpose and a function in your life, yet they may have come handy and come in times where it's helped you, but right now they're no longer serving you. So how do we deal with these parts, a different relationship with these parts, and integrate them into the whole so we can be more in self? And so it's a great book. I think I would recommend it. These next points, like these 2 podcasts I've been listening to recently that have been like helping me, like just getting a better understanding of the world and just hearing different types of thoughts and perspectives. There's one's called the Andrew Huberman podcast, and he's like a neuroscientist, and he goes deep into a lot of things. Just like I was listening to one that he was talking about just the neurotransmitter dopamine and just kind of going in depth about that. And he talks also about like psychology stuff too, because he'll get into different types of like different mental health issues, and then also he gets into like the brain about like different neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin and how that affects our mind, our motivation, drive, and all that. So that's a good podcast I listen to. And the next one's called Lex Friedman podcast, a guy that builds AI robotics, an engineer, but brilliant guy. But he's always bringing in different types of people to like have conversations and discussions. And I just like hearing different perspectives of them. So I think that's a good one to listen to. And the last one is a documentary called Stutz. And it's about Jonah Hill's therapist. So he documented his therapist, and it kind of serves two purposes. And one, just to highlight who his therapist is and like just give a background of his life and like how he became a therapist and all that. And the second is to like give out resources. We're talking about resources, but give out resources of like therapists, different interventions and skills that that Jonah Hill's thought that it's like has helped him. And so, yeah, I've gained some stuff from those different interventions and try to implement in my therapy practice and help my clients with. And yeah, I think it's just a good documentary to take a good look at.
For me, first book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Awesome book, which is basically kind of talks about procrastination, your habits, the things that you kind of do every day, and the simple things that you kind of want to grow and get better at. In a sense, you have control over your choices and the environment that's around you, and things that you can do to kind of increase your ability to be productive, be as efficient as possible. And all it takes is just small adjustments to your daily schedule, how you do things, the environments you're in, to really give you the best shot at being your best self. Whether that's you wanting to correct getting to bed a little earlier, or that's getting through projects a little bit more focused, or whether that may be really incentivizing or at least assigning the proper consequence to motivate you to be the person who you need to be, who you want to be, or who other people need you to be. Next would be The Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. Great book that kind of allows you to also give yourself some self-compassion. It's a practice of mindfulness that a lot of us kind of avoid to give ourselves. And in the book, it kind of gives you pieces of self-compassion, which you want to focus on through each chapter, while also giving you a prompt to kind of reflect, questions to answer, and then allow for that kind of deep reflection in which you need to kind of further give you more self-compassion. Allow yourself to let go of things. Allow yourself to practice the acceptance you need to kind of live your life with less anxiety, with less pressure, or giving you the love that you need and deserve. In one of the books, I wouldn't say it's necessarily professional. I wouldn't say it's just like everyday stuff, but more so just you. And that's 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. Awesome book of just very short, quick reading, little chapters that kind of make you think about various things in your life. Has topics and chapters devoted to specific focuses. So, I mean, it's something that you can buy. Very cheap book, paperback, hard copy, however you want it. Ebook, it's an audio book as well. You can find it on YouTube, find it in your library. Very easy. Something you can play for, 5 minutes, read for 5 minutes a day, and it gives you what you need, or at least has you thinking about it. The rest of the day, maybe the week. Some of the stuff is pretty deep. And the last bit is therapy. I've gotten myself into therapy as well after, having to work through some tough things and not feeling like myself for the past couple of years. So given the situation I kind of put myself in and didn't handle the best way. And I think one of the first things I said to my therapist was just more so, I'm here because, life leaves an impact on you. And for the longest time, we kind of create the reality we've been in. And if you do that for a long time without kind of touching base and kind of being able to kind of get that readjustment to what reality actually is, you kind of just become the person that kind of dictates of what morality is and dictate the rules of it. And quite often you might be playing against yourself in order to kind of survive. And sometimes you need somebody to kind of reflect on what's actually real, what's actually fair, other people's opinions and feelings, and apply the correct weight to it that you need to, so that the pieces that are tough, you accept, rise to the occasion, make decisions on, and the anxieties that follow those decisions, you are approaching at a way with support that you need. It's not just because you want to be a better person. That's definitely a piece of therapy. So personal growth is going to be hand in hand with therapy, whether you guys like it or not. But also just getting the support that you need, whether it is with sleepless nights, whether it is with your depression, whether it is with your anxiety or ADHD or whatever you may need. Being able to kind of reconcile with the change that's coming and being able to accept what comes with it and how you move forward. With that, that's our resources. We hope that you take and heed them, take advantage of them, use them, and or just feel free to ask more about them from us on our email, on our Instagram. But yeah, guys, you have anything else to add before we say goodbye to the crew?
Oh, we're good. I think that was great, what you said. Just leave it like that.
Fuck it. All right.
We need a sponsor.
Exactly. We need a sponsor. So this episode was brought to you by Headspace.
Brought to you by Remedy Radio.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace out, y'all.
See ya later on this season.
More to come.